Hello, and you're very welcome back to the Faithful Podcast. My name is Liam White, and we're back again today for a review of the Offaly Senior Football Championship, the action that took place over the weekend. So, another busy weekend in the calendar in the Offaly Football Championship. I'm just after watching the last group game that just took place there a couple of minutes ago between Ballycommon and Road. Very strange that the game took place on a Tuesday night. You wouldn't normally associate a game taking place on a Tuesday night, especially for a senior and club championship game. But yeah, look, it took place anyways, and I have to say, very, very strange game. Very, very strange indeed. There was 3 goals in the first 6 minutes of the game. Niall McNamee got 2, Aaron Keelahan got the other for Road. They were 3 goals to no score up after 6 minutes. Absolutely crazy, absolute carnage. So it was. And at that point, you were probably sort of fearing the worst for Ballycommon at that stage, thinking, this could be a very, very long evening for them. But to their credit, they responded really, really well to the goal. The Kennys in the full forward line in particular absolutely had savage games, all 3 of them, to be honest with you. Ryan Kenny in particular, the goal that he got after 24 minutes made it 3-1 to 1-6, which is a crazy scoreline in a game of football, especially after 24 minutes, But in fairness to Ballycommon, they responded really well to the goal from Road. They were starting to win a lot of breaking ball, a lot of poke outs, a lot of kickouts. And yeah, they were just performing really, really well. They were fast to the ball as well. Zach Wright, I thought, had a savage game in there as well. I saw him against Ferbane a couple of weeks ago, and I thought he looked really, really good. And yeah, things were looking well for Ballycommon heading towards halftime. And then in the space of 2 minutes, Aaron Keelahan and Rory McNamee poached in 2 goals in the space of 60 seconds. And it kind of just sort of killed the momentum of Ballycommon to a degree. Like, you went in at halftime and the score was 5-3 to 1-6, which is an absolutely bizarre sort of a scoreline for a game of football, really. It's an incredible scoreline, really, for a game of football, especially in the first 30 minutes. But yeah, look, the second half, then a lot of wides in the second half, a lot of wides, especially from a Road perspective. They won't be too happy. It was good to see the likes of Brian Darby playing in the second half. He was getting on the ball a lot. He was driving them forward a lot. Had a lot of a huge amount of possession, and he was a real driving force in there as well, which was good to see. And I'm just after realizing that I'm after naming this immediate reaction to Ballycommon versus Tullamore instead of Road. So it just shows you how smart I am. I'll change that immediately. But yeah, look, regardless, there was never really a period where I felt Road were going to sort of lose the game. Ballycommon, as good as they were giving it a challenge, they were just never really fully on it to a degree. It just they never really got going. They were never really able to penetrate the defense of Road, to be honest. And it's kind of interesting because, like, the game ended 6-7 to 112, which is again a crazy scoreline in a game of football. So they scored they got the same amount of scores, which is even madder to think. But yeah, Ballycommon had 1-6 at half time. They ended up with 7 points in the second half. Road in the second half only scored 1-4. So, like, it just shows you that it was a fairly even second half. But Ballycommon, they just weren't trying to get in behind the Road defence. They weren't pulling them out or anything like that. They were a bit stagnant at times, almost maybe a bit afraid to go forward with it. But look, it's a good win for Road. They've 2 wins now back to back after beating Ferbane the last day. So yeah, look, they're motoring along nicely as we speak. Rory McNamee is still doing the business. Aaron Keelan got a goal at the end as well, which made it his hat-trick. Charlie Cullen did well to set him up for it as well. So yeah, look, a great win for Road. For Ballycommon, look, it's a tough defeat for them as well. They had Aidan Bracken who went off, or David Dempsey, who went off with a black card as well, which wasn't great from their perspective either. But look, I think the game was pretty much gone at that point, so you could be forgiven for that. But yeah, look, a real tough evening for Ballycommon, a tough opening couple of minutes. But yeah, look, great win for Road. Then move on to the next round. So yeah, we'll move on then to the next games that took place over the weekend in the Offaly Senior Football Championship. It's kind of unfortunate, to be honest with you, because it really was a weekend where all the games were sort of one-sided. There wasn't really a competitive match. That's sort of the disappointing thing, to be honest with you. Like, you could just tell, like, the big talking points from the weekend were the other three games that were all fairly one-sided as well. You know, like Tullamore got off to a winning start in the championship. I'll just pull up their result here. Yeah, Tullamore again, just a really, really solid performance there. Shout out to Freelance Advertising Ireland as well for the graphics. I've left this link in the description to go follow his Instagram page. Savage work that he's been doing for me for the last couple of weeks. So fair play to him again. Thanks a million for that. But yeah, look, Tullamore, they got off to a winning start, you know, as you'd have expected against Bracknell. Harry Plunkett, who's just back from the US as well, finished with 1-5. Luke Burke scored a terrific goal into the top corner of the net off his left foot. It was really well worked goal as well. I'd recommend checking it out on Clubber if you haven't seen it already. Cormac Egan got a goal in the last minute as well to sort of really, really send Bracknell packing, really, to be honest with you. It was, yeah, look, it was just it was always going to be a tough evening for Bracknell, you know, against a team that are going for 3 in a row in Offaly, against a team that were only losing to the All-Ireland champions last year, Coola, by 3 points, especially in Parnell Park as well. So it was always going to be a difficult game for them. Tullamore were just too strong. You know, they kind of blew a bit hot and cold. You know, there was nothing about the performance that was 100% spectacular, but at the same time, these are the sort of games that you win and you move on, you know. And look, Tullamore be well aware they'll have tougher games to come over the next couple of weeks, especially against the likes of Shamrocks, you know, which I think is going to be a really, really intriguing, fascinating game of football. You know, I'm really looking forward to seeing how that game pans out, especially with it being in O'Connor Park as well. But yeah, look, just a really tough evening for Bracken. They'll be focusing mostly their attention on the game against Clonbelogue this weekend, taking place on Sunday. And yeah, look, it's gonna be a huge game for both clubs. And yeah, look, there's not much else really you can say about this game, to be honest with you. And well, unfortunately, I think the same could be said for the likes of this game as well. I was commentating this game for Clubber on Sunday. And yeah, this scoreline 4-18 to 1-4 in favour of Shamrocks at home to Clonbelogue, the Senior B champions from last year. And yeah, again, it was just a really one-sided affair. The O'Toole Greens on fire. Nigel Dunn kicking 10 points. I believe he got 6 from play. You know, Jack Bryant got a 2-pointer at the end, which was a fantastic 2-pointer as well. But I kind of described it on commentary, he was like doing the sort of Paddy Clifford type of role. He was setting up a lot of scores throughout the game and was doing a lot of dirty work off the ball as well. So, yeah, Paddy Dunnigan getting 2 goals, 2 very similar goals as well in the second half. Like, it was good to see Kieran Dolan back playing as well for Shamrocks after the horrific injuries he's had over the last couple of years. And he looked really good out there as well. So it's good to see him back. Clonbelogue, they scored 1 point from play in this game out of their 1-4. So they'll be very, very disappointed with that return tally. Like, you know, they had Keith O'Neill in there who was doing his level best to keep his side in it. He took his penalty really well. He won the penalty for them, kicked a good 45 as well. But you know, Jamie Ging was getting on the ball a good bit, trying to do stuff. Lee Dempsey was working hard in the middle of the park as well, dropping back a good bit, but they really just didn't have anything in there. Harry Judge, to be fair, I thought had a good game at centre back. To be fair, I thought he did all right, but yeah, it was just a really difficult game for them. And it's amazing to think, because when they got the goal coming up to half time, there was only like 3 points in it, and I couldn't believe it, because I was like, you know, Shamrocks have done all the football here, but yeah, the goal just on the edge of half time by Alan Heffernan, it killed all the momentum for Clonbelogue, and I sort of feared the worst for them going into the second half. And as you could tell here, 3 goals in the second half, along with the 9 points that they tagged on top of that as well. Like, I think it took to the 34th, 35th, 36th minute, or maybe it was close to the 40th minute or something like that, before Clonbelogue got a point from play, you know. And it was just disappointing from their perspective. But like, they were coming up against a team that were semi-finalists last year and deserved semi-finalists as well. You know, they were by far and wide the one of the best sides in Offaly last year, pulled off some big wins as well over the likes of Ferbane and Ian Derry, and they'll be fancying their chances against Tullamore. They won't fear them anyways, that's for sure. They have a nice little group coming together as well. You've Sean Chip O'Toole in goals, David O'Rourke as well, a fullback who was advancing with the ball a lot, very much a kind of like Owen Connolly from the Tipperary Hurlers. You know, he's a fullback that could end his career with a load of scores as well. You know, you'd Port Cantwell, Offaly senior hurler at centre back. You know, and you'd runners all over the team as well. In the O'Toole Greens, in Bryant, who's obviously very, very fit. Dunnigan, who was dropping back a good bit as well, towards the half forward line, towards the midfield. So yeah, look, really, really solid performance from Shamrocks. Just what they needed going into their season. And yeah, look, they'll know again they'll have tougher games to come. But in fairness to Clonbelogue, look, they tried their best. There's no point saying otherwise. They did try their best, but they were just coming up against a top class side, and it is their first Senior A game. So you have to put things into a small bit of perspective. But yeah, look, great win for Shamrocks to open up. They'll have Tullamore next in O'Connor Park, which is a game that I'm going to be really, really intrigued to watch. There'll be some fantastic individual battles in that game as well. Sean Mooney as well, I meant to mention. I thought he had a fantastic game at cornerback as well. So yeah, look, a solid performance from Shamrocks. They move on to the next one. And so we'll move on to the final game that took place over the weekend, which was between Doro and Ferbane. And this game, again, one-sided. It's unfortunate to be kind of saying this. You would have hoped that some of the games this weekend would have been a lot more close and a lot more tighter and a bit more intriguing, but they just never transpired that way, and it's sort of unfortunate. But yeah, this is the game that maybe I felt could have been the closest going into the weekend, and it seemed that way to a degree, even coming up towards half time. Like, Ferbane were way too strong over the 60 minutes, but they were even enough in the first half. The only for Dara Flynn's goal coming up to half time, it gave them a 4-point advantage. But like, Kevin McDermott had a goal after a couple of minutes, much like Mark Troy getting an early goal against Eden Derry the last day, and you were thinking Doro could be up for this game. This could be a game that they could target and try and pull off maybe a bit of a shock or perform well for 40-45 minutes. But yeah, the second half, really, for Ban, once they had that goal from Dara Flynn, they pretty much kicked on the second half, and they ran home comfortable enough winners. And look, there just wasn't enough scoring in the forward line from a Doro perspective. You had Kevin McDermott kicking 2-5 out of their 2-7. And it just that says kind of everything you need to know. He is their best player and he's their most prolific player. Whereas you look at for Ban, you had Keane Johnson scoring 1-6. Brian Carroll got their goal along with Dara Flynn. They've spacious amount of scores across their forward line, and look, it's a good one for Ferbane. But look, again, they'll be just have been happy to get over this game with no big injury concerns and just happy to win the game in convincing enough fashion. Like, Kevin McDermott got a goal at the end, which made the scoreline look a bit more respectful for the Duro perspective. But yeah, 3-16 to 2-7. Again, it's just unfortunate. The 4 games of the weekend were all pretty much wrapped up by halftime, really. Well, maybe not halftime to a degree, but it was they just weren't close games, which is unfortunate. You want these games to be as competitive as they can be, but I suppose, look, when you have teams in there like Doro, like Ferbane, like Tullamore, who are really, really solid, really, really strong teams, it's always going to pose a big challenge for you. But look, thing is, for the likes of Ferbans, the likes of Tullamores, these types of teams, their business is to win games, and that's that. They're not going to care about trying to make games entertaining for neutrals or trying to appease the crowd or anything like that. They're there to do a job, and they've done it rather well. So yeah, look, fair play to them. It's a comfortable win, and they'll take great confidence from it. So yeah, that's all the Senior A games wrapped up from the weekend. Anyways, we'll just touch briefly on some of the games that took place in the Senior B Championship and some of the results in the Intermediate Championship as well. In the Senior B Championship, that took place on Sunday. First of all, I was at this game, Dangan against Gracefield, and ended 2-14 to 3-7. Gracefield were leading at halftime, 2-4 to 5 points, and then Dangan came out in the second half and they were on it. They were unbelievable in the second half. They were the much better side. And it was a poor performance in the second half by Gracefield. There's no point saying otherwise, to be honest with you. Like, they started really well. They had the wind in the first half, but yeah, they just didn't have the same fight in them in the second half, I don't think. Dangan, they were poor in the first half, but in the second half they came out and they were just absolutely firing on all cylinders. They absolutely went at them, and they had a lot of space at times. There was a lot of width, and there was not really a lot of marking as well, which is never a great sign when you're trying to coach a team as well. But yeah, look, it was a great second half performance from Dangan, to be fair to them. They can take, like, it's the fact that they had Shane Tierney on the bench and they didn't bring him on. They only brought him on in the second half, and they were still able to win the game, which says a lot about them, that they're able to sort of live without him to a degree. Because like he is their best player by a country mile. There's no question about it. He's an Offaly senior footballer at the end of the day, and he had a decent season with Offaly, I felt as well, So to win this game and to score 2-14, well, score 2-9 in the second half, especially with your best player not available to you until the second half, in my opinion, is really, really good going. But yeah, look, they got their 2 second half goals from Shane Marsden, who I thought had a fantastic game. Keane Riley put in a really, really nice goal as well. The second one off his left foot. I think it was off his left foot anyways. They outscored them 2-9 to 1-3 in the second half. It really wasn't, excuse me, it really wasn't close, to be honest with you. Towards the end of the game, like Oren Connolly had a fantastic game at corner forward. He was kicking over pints left, right, and centre throughout the game. And look, in fairness to Gracefield, they had some good performers as well. I thought Corey McAvoy had a good game. Jack Walsh kicked a couple of wides, but he was looking threatening at times throughout that game, which was good to see. Niall Smith rolling back the ears and had a good game as well. So look, there is positives there for Gracefield, but obviously the result in the end, they won't be happy with it. But yeah, great win for Dangan. They'll move on to the next round. Looking at just some of the other games that took place over the weekend in the Senior B Football Championship, Ballycommon were beaten at home by Cappacor 117 to 112. Sort of probably expect this result. Cappacor be a team that'll be looking to win the Senior B Championship this year, so a good win for them. And yeah, in the other game that took place in the Senior B Football Championship, Tubber were 120 to 314 winners over Balnagar. Think Tubber will be happy to just get out of there with the victory. They are missing the likes of Donald Shirley at the moment, who has an injury at the moment. We wish him well for that. But yeah, look, great win for Tubber. Back on the horse after losing the game against Cappacor, which they probably shouldn't have lost. I was at that game as well, and they probably should have won that game out, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's a good win for them to move on. So yeah, that's the games in the Senior B Championship. In the Intermediate Football Championship, Tullamore had too much, as probably expected, for St. Rynas. They were 314 to 7-point winners. On Sunday afternoon, Walsh Island were beaten by Kilcormac by 3 goals and 9 points to 3 goals and 10. A result that was an interesting sort of result. It was hard to know what to expect with Kilcormac in football, to be honest with you, because you just never know what team is going to turn up or what team is going to play. So it's always a mystery to most teams. But yeah, they pulled off the win. So it's a big win for them. They'll be absolutely thrilled with that. So yeah, look, fair play to them on getting that victory there. They'll have St. Rynas in their next match. And sure, who knows, they might fancy their chances in that one. And yeah, in the other games in the Intermediate Championship, Raheen just about had enough to take down Edenderry by 3 goals and 9 points to 15, whilst Ferbane had a 2-point victory over St. Bridget's by 18 points to 3-7. So I'm going to leave it there if that's okay. A bit of a late one, but I said I'd wait until the Road and Ballycommon game was finished before I did a video. We will have a preview later on the week. Looking forward to the hurling action that's happening this weekend, with Bore taking on Tullamore on Friday, Balnamere facing Sir Kieran on Saturday, as well as Shinrone taking on Belmount, and with champions Kilcormac taking on Kinnity in Kilcormac on Sunday afternoon. So we'll have a preview of all those games coming up in the next couple of days. So yeah, look, cheers to anybody who has tuned in. Hopefully somebody's tuned in anyway. But yeah, look, shout out to, like I mentioned already, Freelance Advertising Ireland for the graphics, doing some savage work over the last couple of weeks for me. So give him a shout. Links in the description below to his Instagram. Follow the Faithful Podcast on Instagram as well. Thanks for watching. To anyone who has, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos to come over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully there'll be some good work behind the scenes for you to look forward to over the next couple of weeks. But until then, thanks really for watching, and I'll chat to you in the next one.